Kia ora SYC, it's Monday. I hope the start of your week is going really well. I'm really excited to start our devotional series on the theme of God in the desert. We're going to look through the book of Exodus, particularly around the story of God taking his people out of slavery in Egypt, and before he takes them to the promised land, he holds them in the desert for 40 years where he shapes and forms them into the people of God that he wants them to be. I think there are some lessons we can take from this time of what God might want to do with us in this lockdown period. This week we'll be looking at how God wants to guide us, how he wants to speak to us. Next week we'll be looking at how God sustains and feeds us. In week 3 we'll be looking at God's goodness. Firstly, the law that he gives, but ultimately his son that he gives, and his son's death and resurrection at Easter time. In week 4, we'll be looking at what do we take from this into the promised land. I want to start today with a passage from Exodus 14. It's a bit of a surprising one. It comes in the form like this. They said, this is the people of God, to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert." Here we get Israel's complaints, Israel's moanings. We were better in Egypt, we had a place to live, we had food. Why did you bring us here? And I think there's some stuff in here we can relate to, that in this period of lockdown there's some frustrations, there's some annoyances. Man, I just want some food, but it's so hard to get. Man, I'm isolated from my friends and it's hard to connect. There are just some frustrations, some annoyances, but I think in the midst of this, God's wanting to say in his quiet voice to us, I want to free you from slavery. That actually the Israelites were in the desert complaining, but they've forgotten what they were really called out of. And I think in this period, God wants to call us out of some habits, some routines, some ways of thinking that in our regular lives we just did by default, but now we're pulled out of those routines. God might bubble them up to the surface and call them into question, and we can get free from some stuff that was trapping us. God wants us to call us into a freer life as we move through this lockdown, but then as we move into our lives afterwards. So I want to invite you to think, what might God be rising to the surface that you'd maybe pushed down, maybe you'd avoided before, but now is coming to the surface, and you kind of have to confront it. It might be stuff from yourself, it might be relationships, it might be wider societal things. I think one of the exciting things is seeing the positive ways this is already influencing our world and our society. Like, for example, it's awesome to see that the little glimpses that our environment is already recovering in the short time that the globe has been locked down. I think another awesome thing that I've seen is this mix-up of what roles in our society are seen as highly valued, highly sought after. There are jobs that suddenly are seen as super essential and are highly valued, that are getting the respect that maybe they deserved all along, but actually our education systems, our society doesn't think are valuable normally. Things are already kind of being shifted and moved, and I wonder within you, within us, what God's calling us to rethink, to redo. So my question to you for this week and this 4 weeks is, what do you think God is calling you to let go of, to be set free of, to have the chains fall from? I reckon it's something worth asking in prayer and seeing what he gives you.